Man, I love that picture in the background. Who's that? Martin Luther King and no, that's who is that? Miles Davis and somebody?
Yeah, Miles Davis and Charlie Bird.
Oh, they down in Birdland. That's awesome. That's awesome. Gosh, your day going so far?
Good, man. Can't complain.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I like to let people know that they are now in the room with Eli because I'm in my room.
In your room? Okay.
Yeah, I'm in my room. See, I had to get my conference on. But I always ask my guests to introduce themselves, and I'm not going to break that tradition right now. So please introduce yourself to my audience out
there. Hey, how y'all doing? I hope you're well. My name is Derek Oxley. I'm a marathoner. I think I came in contact with Eli online, seeing him running and doing his thing. I host a podcast, Behind the Wheel morning show. And yeah, trying to stay safe out here. And
You in ground zero, aren't you?
No, I'm in Connecticut. I wouldn't say ground zero. Ground zero would be like, New York is like a hot spot, more of a hot spot than Connecticut.
Okay. You're far out.
Further out, yeah, a little further out.
Okay. I'm in Georgia. We're just headlines. That's, I don't know what to say. From our governor down to the citizens, I don't know what to say. We just staying we in the news every day. I'm tired of watching it because Georgia come up for some reason every day.
Never a dull moment, huh?
Never. It is, I don't know what to say. We're Georgia. So with that being said, and a lot of times I like to keep people abreast of what am I doing. Eli, you got a lot of people on Zoom, but I'm just talking to all of us everyday citizens, and I'm calling us every day simply because we're not in the limelight. We're not the entertainers of the world, the politicians of the world. We are the foundation of a nation. We're the citizens. We're the 9 to 5. We are the ones that have been dealing with, believe it or not, the COVID situation ground level. And I'm furloughed. So America, you caught me on video and have a job at the time. Yes, thank you for the stimulus check and a few other things, but I had to find something to do. So like the individual that I am interviewing, Derek here, I decided to go live. And so with that being said, how has the COVID situation affected you, either positively or negatively? You can speak freely.
It has its moments. You know, you have your good days, your not so good days. You know, some of them just seem to just sort of blend together. You know, I had left. I used to be in retail management and left that to kind of pursue some other opportunities and, you know, focusing on creating content and building the podcast, et cetera. You know, with the change with COVID, it kind of impacted my stream of income. So, you know, you just gotta, you make adjustments and you make do. It's something you didn't anticipate coming, but you make the best of it. So the days at home, you know, at first it's like, okay, first couple of days, it's all right. Well, we'll, you know, go for a run, you do some other things. Then, you know, it becomes a little dicey at times, you know, but you got to do something to stay busy and active. And that's what I try to do.
And that's along the lines of a lot of individuals I've interviewed so far, especially small business entrepreneur individuals. And there are some that it just didn't affect them at all. They were, you know, essential employees, so they worked without being laid off this whole time. They just, you know, worked their butts off. A lot of them caught a lot of overtime. And then I've interviewed a few people like yourself that they had 4 types of income or 4 different ways they were earning, and then because of the COVID situation, all of a sudden now they're down to 1. And it's 1, so they've had to make adjustments on the fly. But I'm probably sounding like you. I'm furloughed. So yeah, they laid me off. Okay. I'm not too disappointed right now because they paid us, you know, a pretty decent money. But you can only be in the house, clean the house so much, before, okay, that's old. I cleaned my room 12 times. Went outside and you can only cut the grass like, once a week.
Mm-hmm.
After a while, you have to start finding other things to do. And so since I've been furloughed since March. And so after a while, I personally, the adjustment that has happened with me is like, okay, where do I want to go? What do I really want to do? So I've actually had to take time to sit down and go through the thoughts of my heart on what is it that I really want to do with life? I'm okay, but am I okay? And so I've said to myself, well, I've started studying like my HVAC a little bit more because I prefer to pursue that self-employed, And then, of course, I like speaking to people. I like communications. And I'm like, you know what? What's wrong with following the example of the, individuals such as yourself with Behind the Wheel podcast? I'm like, well, man, let me get on Zoom. But what am I going to talk about? Because I always speak about homelessness. But I'm like, man, let me just speak to people on how it's affecting their lives and what type of different adjustment they've had to make. So you also, like myself, is a runner, and unfortunately, running season has been canceled. All of our races are canceled. Like,
the races have been canceled. Running ain't been canceled.
Now, running hasn't been canceled, but they've been canceled all my races, man. I'm like, what am I training for? So with that being said, how has that affected your running, or has it?
Well, I still get out, but it's a little different when you got a target that you're trying, this race that you're training for, not having that out in front of you. Then it's like, okay, what am I doing? Then it's just maintenance miles, and you're just getting into a routine just to release the stress for me, which is basically kind of helps to keep going. But without that goal, some people's like, oh man, I don't have this race. It's the race, it's the fellowship, it's the camaraderie with people. You're setting a goal for yourself, and you're getting out there and trying to reach that goal. But without that, I've got this race in May, and you got this race coming up, and so oh man, yeah, it's not happening. So what do? You got to recalibrate and make the best of it.
I tell you what, and I was speaking with a friend of ours in common, Tess. She's here. She's the race director here for the race, the United. And we were speaking about how we see each other on Zoom. We'll see each other Facebook Live, IG Live, all of that. But it's not the same as that come to the run club, there you go, that hug that goes along with, yeah, how you doing, where you running, or what type of training are you doing. There's so much that we do when we're together as runners. It's not just the run, because the run group may only run 3 miles, but it's the communion that's happening before and after, which is what makes the bond, what makes the run. And I'm definitely like stressed out because I've run with a whole
withdrawals.
Man. I'm cycling more. How about yourself? Did you find a new activity to get into?
Well, I got a Schwinn on a trainer. Yeah, so I can get on the bike occasionally. Switch it up. I've never been like really a heavy, rider or whatever, but it's a different option, at the treadmill in case, it's raining outside or snowing, but I prefer to go outside and go for the run, and in between. So if it's not, something physical, then I'll plug in put the headphones in and listen to a podcast or a master class, try to do something, read a book. I find myself I'm cooking more because it's the same couple of meals, but I'm cooking more, and I haven't gotten on the scale. I don't watch my weight like that to be saying like, oh, I mean, I think I might have put on some weight because at home and it's like, okay, let me grab a snack, and let me get another snack, and all right. Yeah. Before I was just going to get one half a pint of Haagen-Dazs. Now I'm going to get like 4 at a time or whatever.
Oh man.
And,
But
it could be worse addictions, you know?
it could be. It could be. And you brought up a couple of interesting things because I interviewed my nephew not too long ago. Now he's in Cincinnati, Ohio. So we're talking, and I'm speaking about the barbershop, and he's like, "Yeah, they're closed down." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm in Georgia." And so now I'm having to remember that different areas are dealing with this in different phases in different ways.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of different because they've eased the stay at home here in Georgia. And I have to say this, I went to a place called Stone Mountain to ride my bike, me and a few of the friends. And when I got there, let me just say this. It was as if they let it was as if the whole city had been locked in their home for 3 weeks. And all of a sudden they said, you can go outside now. The place was packed. Social distancing. I was scared. I was literally scared. I have been running outside since then because I run with about 2 or 3 friends of mine. And I had been running and we're cool with that. And it's only us 3, no more than 4. We can keep social distancing. And that was great. They eased up on the stay at home. Man, I went to the local park. I'm seeing hundreds, maybe thousands of people. I'm like, oh, I'm going in the house. All of a sudden, I'm ready to get in the house. And in the last week, I haven't really been outside at all, man. I've gotten scared. So do you deal with it in that way, or they still at stay at home in your area?
They're pretty much, you know, stay at home. Like the barbershops are closed. My local D&D, you know, so I don't go. I usually, if I was going there, I would just go through drive-through. That's closed. They just have the drive-through open up. You know, occasionally I would go to Marshall's because they get like these little like specialty like tomato sauce or pasta or whatever. But the department stores are closed. Walmart, they were a little lax at first with the mask. I went there, you know, you start to see like the progression. They start ramping up. They've got like barricades out there. You can't get in without a mask now, you know. So yeah, there's like a little uneasy feeling, you know, you traffic is not as heavy as it normally was. You know, I live on one of the main streets, so you can hear like traffic. And then when you go outside, I don't know if it's psychologically you're thinking something's out there in the air. You know, you watch all these shows. Is this the zombie apocalypse or something go get us?
I've spoken with a few guests so far, and that's one of the other things, the psychological scars that are probably having to be dealt with when somebody says, okay, everybody can go back outside, which again, I'm kind of stuck there because it's like, okay, you're staying at home, you're not having all of these gatherings in these hard arenas and places, and all of these things are shut down. Okay, so just who going to tell everybody, all right, you can go back to these places? I mean, who are we waiting on to say all is clear? And then what we're waiting on. So I've never seen a cure for any virus yet.
Yeah.
I have seen things that treat the symptoms. So I'm also kind of stuck there, like mentally, like, well, wait a minute, there's really no cure for the common cold. You either get it or you don't. You fight it off, you know, you put antibodies in your body, and your body's immune system is what fights it off. So I'm like, okay, this is a strand of flu, which typically you get a flu and they treat the symptom, because I can catch the flu 2020, don't catch it 2021, catch it again in 2022. So now psychologically in my mind, that's what plays in my mind. Like, wait a minute, you know, when we all get to go back outside, what is it that's going to make it okay for us to gather in crowds again? So where's your thoughts on that?
You know, I think you hear these, you listen to the press briefings, and then if you're getting a clear and consistent message from the leadership, then you kind of feel, okay, well, I can kind of trust them. But if you're getting these mixed messages, then it's like, well, who do you trust? You know, and then you have all these, you know, conspiracy theories out there, and you start to it can really start to mess with you. You wondering, is it safe? Who do I believe? And you got to be able to, whether you put your faith in God or wherever, higher power, that's well and good. And then you want to be practical also, because I can't, when I'm listening to somebody talking, I'm like, I don't know if I'm buying what they're saying. If 1 minute they're telling me put the mask on, and then you as the leader say, well, I'm not wearing a mask because, I don't want to look, I think it'd be ridiculous for me to wear a mask. It's like, well, what do we say? You get these mixed messages. So I think that's what makes it kind of uncertain. Like, do I go back outside? And when is it going to be safe to go outside? And whose word am I taking for it? And it's like they're saying plans for the worst, and they give you these worst case scenarios, and then they're not at those numbers yet, but people are dying, and you see that, and then it's like, okay, so which way do we go? And I don't have any answers, but I just know, you just kind of play it safe when I go outside.
You really touched on something there. I typically try and avoid even discussing the leadership, because as an individual, I totally just feel like not only in the political world has the ball been dropped, but the media has their role in it too, and driving some of the fears. Because part of my problem was this: you come out and they speak about the mask. Okay, you put the mask on. Yet I'm listening, and the reason why I'm wearing the mask is to not get you sick. It's not to keep me from getting sick, but it's to keep me from spreading to you. Now, that's kind of cool until, like I said, I go to this park, I'm outside, and there's hundreds to thousands of people, and only 30% is in a mask. And it's like, okay, so now why am I wearing my mask now? I'm not going. And so psychologically, that played on my mind, because now, I don't want to go to a basketball game. I love it. You can give me tickets to the football game. I'm kind of skeptical of going unless everybody has a mask. And when I say everybody, I mean everybody. I want to see the coaches in a mask, players, because it plays in my psyche. And I watch the news, and I can only watch so much before it's just too much. And I have to back up off of it and do something totally different. Because it's like, I'm with you on the fact that, I receive mixed messages, and there's a political divide. That's obvious. Then with the political divide, then comes the divide when we're depending on our medical advisors. Somehow politics got into that. And so there's all sorts of different information. So I definitely am not at a point of trusting the federal leadership. I'm not there. I'm pretty much on the local side of things, and I just stay here in Atlanta. So, and that's why I'm having the Zoom meetings, and it's like, well, that's how I feel. I'm in Atlanta, but you're in Connecticut. And Connecticut is a totally different situation than Atlanta.
Yeah, every state seems like they're handling, coping with it differently, depending on the leadership that's in place. Some people are. So it just depends on the leadership that's in place. You know what it is. It's bizarre seeing it play out on TV. Some places are like, this is what we're doing. You can look at the leadership that's there. They seem like they've got a plan. It's coherent. You can kind of follow it. It puts people at ease. And whether or not you're a good speaker, I think has a lot to do with it. But if people don't trust you, then it becomes like, what do we do? We're going out? I don't know. I want to get out, but I don't want to die either. But nobody wants to die. It's like, you just say some things that just make me feel like, are you serious? Well, I've got grandkids, and I know grandparents. I don't personally have grandparents. This is one of the politicians about that. He's got grandparents, and I would want to sacrifice my I'm willing to sacrifice myself for the economy. And I'm like, just hearing it just seems like you say you want old people they should just be willing to just, you've been here long enough, just go ahead on to die, and let us open back up the economy and get going.
Yeah, it's such a mixed emotion because just watching the news with the meat plants, and up in my heart, it's like, well, they want the meat because we're headed to the summer season. Although it doesn't look like it and feel like it outside. We're in May. You guys out there is having snow. Up north is snow. We're freezing. Anything below 60, it tends to be towards cold in Atlanta. We're not good. We handling it. But the weather is playing its role. But by Memorial Day, man, that's usually the time we're saying summer.
Yeah.
Picnic, beach, amusement park, going out of state, vacation. And right now, I in my heart, I feel like, well, trying to get that open to hopefully be able to sell some meat to try and hopefully revive something in Memorial Day. But I really don't see how you're going to revive an economy during that weekend. But I feel like that's what is the plan without saying that's our plan. This time, instead of saying we're opening by Easter, instead of saying we're opening by Memorial Day, we're just going to ease into it, you guys. And I'm like you at that point. Yeah, ease into it, but wait a minute, man. Ease into it how? What are we doing? I mean, I'm in the hospitality industry. We're shot. We not moving for a long time. It's not good there. But why would I want to go back to LA Fitness? And it's like this. So, I mean, what do you see yourself doing going forward? Even because you did speak about it, did affect some of the opportunities you have been working with. How do you see yourself adjusting in that vein, in that sense? Let's say by September, do you see yourself trying something new or doing some type of different business to increase the revenue and your financial base? How do you see yourself going forward with that?
But you have to get back out, eventually. I'm not, I'm not a trust fund baby. I don't, so I just can't you just stay home and just watch TV or just keep your feet up and not have any cares or worries in the world. You're just trying to make the best that you can. You're gonna have to do something. There's some things, businesses you can do from home, and then there's some things that you actually have to get out there and do it. And people are going out, and for the most of it, if you're healthy, your chances of you getting infected or contracting the virus, is diminished. It's not as high as it say if you're elderly or you have pre-existing conditions. So you just gonna have to pray for the best and just bite the bullet and get out there and do it, man.
I'm pretty much confident that prayerfully I will go back to the Marriott. However, if for me, if it continues and let's say it's July and the opportunity arises, I'm headed to HVAC simply because that's what I personally went to school for, I've studied for, I'm learning more about with this time I have. So I can see myself going into that field because I also feel like, well, it's less interaction with people. It's still a field that doesn't have me interacting with lots of people at a time. Versus in the hotel industry, and I'm maintenance engineer, depends, but I'll interact with several guests and individuals throughout the course of an 8-hour day. It's just unavoidable. That's going to happen. And so I can see myself getting into the heating and air conditioning industry sooner and really working there. So I can see me getting out there doing something like that. I will be very apprehensive because Marriott called me back because I would want to go work. And I'm okay with working. Sitting at home is just not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
That's why I'm having to do Zoom. And a few other things. Just sitting here that's not working. And so I do see myself getting back out there, but I do feel a little apprehensive about where I'm going to go, how I approach it. I'm not too big on going in places where there will be crowds. I'm just not comfortable with that. I'm okay with outside. If everybody's outside, I'm fine. I'm like, yeah, because if you sneeze, I had to be near you. But I've already been a person where if you're sneezing, I'm getting away from you anyway.
Yeah.
I don't want to catch your allergy, and it could be an allergic sneeze. Now, I don't want to catch that. Sneezing, I don't want to catch that. But you know, I'm okay with us outside. But when you start being indoors and then the sneeze happen, it's different. There's just
confined.
Yeah, it's a confined thing. It's not like outside and wind blow it and it just miss everybody. It's not like that. So yeah, I'm personally will have to deal with that. And so before I get out of here with you, you know, because I really appreciate that, is there like you have any contact information or how people can find your podcast? I'll give you this opportunity to speak about your podcast or IG accounts or anything where people can find you. Because let me say this to the public out there. You want to follow this man's IG account and you want to follow his podcast. There are some moments hilarious happening with these podcasts. Now, the funny thing is with the IG account, some of the content is just so hilarious. You know, I have to sit my phone down. I can't be drinking anything at that time. You know, milk coming out your nose, just not, you know, it's not a beautiful thing. But at the same time, also touched on some very important issues, because now you have the one with the background where you have the news desk. Just it's so awesome. So why don't you let the listeners hear about that?
Thank you, man. I appreciate you, man. I remember finding out about your story. You know, it's inspiring to me, and that's what the show is about. Just ordinary people who are doing extraordinary things in their communities, and hearing, you know, your story and where where you've come from and where you are today, and continue to do this. So seeing this evolution and you know, give me a buzz and say like, yeah, I want you on my show. I'm like, oh, you got a show? This is gonna be exciting. You know, it's behind the wheel morning show. It's podcast. You can find me on iTunes or Spotify, and like you said, on Instagram and Facebook. Yeah, it's something that I kind of stumbled on after getting involved with running, and it puts me in contact with people like yourself, man. So I appreciate you having me on, and I'm glad to be a part. I gotta ask you, man, is that hockey? Is that a hockey jersey in the back there?
The Ohio State. Yes.
You play hockey?
Okay, man, look, I'm from up north. I don't play, but I love it. And at one point, Cincinnati had a hockey team. It was the Cincinnati Stingers, ladies and gentlemen. And I have been ice skating. Thank you. It's a North thing.
Okay, I'm not mad at you, man. That's all right. Yo, did you do New York City?
Yes, I did. I ran it 2019. I loved it. My goal was to do it again this year because it's the 50th anniversary.
I think I seen you. I'm pretty sure I seen you in Brooklyn, man. Coming down.
You videoed me.
Yeah, I was like, yo, I know that guy.
I was like, wow, oh, I know him, and I'm running. I know him. The weirdest thing for me in my life is so funny. I'm a social media person because even in person, I just love people. It's a natural thing about myself that I love. I'm gonna love you before I hate you. It's gonna take you through a lot to hate you. Now I'll dislike behaviors where I won't be around you because of the behavior, but I'm not gonna dislike you. I just love things. So that being said, I'm on social media. I have all these friends, and people just think I have so many friends. I'm like, no. That guy's got 4,000. That one has 3,000. And they're like, they're crazy. And I'm at 2,000 now. I'm like, well, that's not a lot of friends. Like, but I only have 2,000. And so with that even being said, when I go places now, if I go to Chicago, there's this random person that knows me. And I'm running. I could be running. And I ran Chicago, and random people knew me. It was from different states and stuff, but they followed me on Facebook. So now I'm realizing, like, oh, and I'm in back on my feet, and so all of them are back on my feet. People know me, and now I go out of state, And if it's a race involved, I'm pretty confident I'll know at least one other person. And it's a guarantee here in Atlanta. I'm right. Yeah, there's no hiding in Atlanta. I can hide in Georgia. They know me. I tried.
That's all right, man.
It don't work. So I appreciate that shout out. It's been an awesome interview. Give yourself a little time before this airs.